Well, today proved how unique the near-term situation also is as a result of the longer-term situation that we're dealing with that is also kind of unique in history, which is kind of why I'm doing these videos in the first place. The bottom line is, as I noted before already, the market normally has an upward bias coming out of a holiday, including the 3-day weekends. The market did not show that upward bias over the last couple of days. In fact, in no uncertain terms, it pretty much showed the opposite. But in a law against recessions environment, the traders are absolutely determined to try to pull it out anyway. And I did see the possibility of that. I just had no idea per se how the details would play themselves out if it went that way. But I did allow for the possibility. That's why I said let's take it a day at a time. The big picture doesn't change one bit in the process, mind you. That's part of the reason for these videos. Okay? But today proved how this can play itself out. The day, by the way, started exactly the same way the previous 2 days started. Way down. The previous 2 days, they fought it back up again. Tuesday, as I recall, they just barely managed to get to zero. Yesterday, they didn't even quite manage that. Hung on in the area for a while. And at the end of the day, both days, it went back down again. So the market actually went down more as a continuation of last week. It's the exact opposite of what the traders actually wanted to see. Probably the exact opposite of what most other people also wanted to see. The market started way down this morning again. Then they fought it back up again. This time around, they made it above Dow 33,000 and then just hung on for dear life, as the saying goes, for quite a while there. But instead of going back down at the end of the day, bearing in mind that being at Dow 33,000 they were already above zero to begin with, and substantially so, which they never accomplished the previous 2 days. Okay, instead of the market going back down at the end of the day, they accelerated it up. They rammed it up, they shoved it up. Near the end of the day, it was going straight up. They were absolutely determined to make the end of day number look as good as absolutely possible, and they pulled it off, although it did dip down a couple of times hard at the end of the day, yet they managed to shove it back up again, ram it back up again, and closed at top tick once again. Okay, and I'll tell you in a moment why that's important in this particular case, particularly important in this particular case. But the point is, they added over 100 Dow points just in the last few minutes alone, in part because they know that most people only pay attention to the end of day numbers and the end of week numbers, which is why they were so determined to make the end of day number look as good as possible to begin with. But moreover, it became clear near the end of the day that they were absolutely determined to take out the intraday highs of the previous 2 days. The intraday highs, not the end of day highs. There were no end of day highs. They were absolutely determined to make this market close higher than those 2 highs yesterday and the day before, in order to prove on an end of day basis that the market can still go higher than it did so far this week. And at the very end of the day, just in the last few minutes and seconds, they did it. They took out both the intraday high of yesterday and the intraday high of Tuesday, which was actually higher than yesterday's intraday high. Okay, not by a huge amount they took it out, but they did take it out enough to prove, yes, we can do it. So they are absolutely determined to hang on to this market for as long as they possibly can, in the hope that the bad stuff that is going on these days in the world will go away. Of course, we know that's not likely, but that's not how Wall Street traders think. It's the exact same reason why they hung on for an entire year from 2007, the fall of 2007, until 2008, October 2008, before the circumstances finally overwhelmed them and they gave in, and down it went, then in no uncertain terms. I'm anticipating the same sort of thing to happen eventually this time. Just don't know exactly when. So far, they are still pulling it off to hang on no matter what. Okay? Which just reinforces the first thought that crossed my mind when I first found out about the law against recessions years ago, which was, and that's exactly what they're doing now, they're going to hang on for as long as they possibly can, as much as they possibly can, until they simply can't stand it anymore, until they simply can't hang on anymore mentally and emotionally, psychologically, and then it will go down in no uncertain terms. This time around, in a circumstance, in an environment where the Fed won't be able to do anything about it anymore, just like that time back then in 2008, except back then it was strictly speaking just a legal problem, which the Fed eliminated soon after when they had the chance. This time around it will be a practical problem that the Fed can't get around simply by changing a law, okay, which is effectively what they did last time. In other words, what happened back then can't happen again, okay? Quick additional note, you know, the interest rates are coming back again, okay? That is not a good situation. It's just that they did not go up dramatically more from yesterday to today. Oil prices are staying up, okay? That's not helpful either, okay? And the bigger picture bottom line for the moment, I'll quickly comment again on the European markets. They were up today. And the way it worked in the German market was that the market, which got back to the high end of the range yesterday again, hung on for dear life to that level for most of its day today, okay? And then when the American market opened lower, that dragged them back down again too. But the American market started going, I dragged them a little bit, okay? And then when the American market started going up again this morning, that happened before the German market closed. And so basically what the German market did was hang on for dear life going into its, heading toward its close, I should say, in order to not have the drag down from the American market affect it too much. And then when the American market started going back up again, they started going up themselves. So they had a small downturn followed by a bigger upturn going into the close, and so they closed at a higher level too. Hooray, hooray, we made it. Kind of the same attitude that the Wall Street traders undoubtedly had by the end of their day today, which was several hours later. Okay, the problem is that world circumstances don't support this, including the situation in Germany, where I just read this afternoon, okay, that the inflation problem in Germany is getting so bad that the evidence is becoming clear that a great many Germans are cutting back on a great many things in order to make the budget work out, which is causing problems for a lot of businesses in Germany because their revenues are way down, and this includes farmers of goods that are regarded as nice little treats that people just love to have in previous summers, okay? They are finding their sales way lower than normal and way lower than expected going into this summer, because people are now regarding those things as luxuries that they can't afford anymore. They're not buying them. So a lot of farmers are now also in financial trouble because, just for starters, the farmers are, because they're not being able to sell their wares. You know, the foods they produced, that they harvested in the spring in anticipation of the current buying season, the people simply aren't buying them. Too expensive, can't afford it. So that's where it's at there too. Germany is in big trouble too, but there too the stock market for now is trying to hang on like crazy. I do not expect that to last. But the question since the law against recession's environment was also transmitted to most of the rest of the world in recent years and decades, the question is how much longer even the Europeans can keep it up too. So take it a day at a time, as I said, and we'll see where things go. Okay? Anyway, well, enough for now. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I'll do a video if it makes sense. Otherwise, next video next week.